I'm going to read you out of the book for a paragraph or two, and this is a special book. It's called Defying Hitler. Sebastian Haffner. Is anybody familiar with it? It's the diary of a young lawyer in Berlin in the early 30s who kept a day-to-day account of what was going on. He never intended to publish it, but his children found it and published it as a book. It became a bestseller in Germany and elsewhere. It's not very much appreciated around here. So he's in Germany in the 1930s. This is 1933. And he says, I really can't blame, no one can really blame the Germans for being so traumatized by the Reichstagsbrand, the burning of the Reichstag, the German parliament. What one can blame them for, and what shows their terrible collective weakness of character, says Haffner, is that this settled the matter. With sheepish submissiveness, okay, I'll say that again, with sheepish submissiveness, the German people accepted that as a result of the fire, each one of them lost what little personal freedom had been guaranteed them by their constitution, as though it followed as a necessary consequence. If the communists burned down the Reichstag, or we might say, if the terrorists burned down the Twin Towers, it was perfectly in order that the government would take extraordinary, or as the German word says, decisive measures. And we might add to include the supreme international crime defined by Nuremberg, war of aggression. That's important, folks, because Nuremberg grappled with this, and they defined war of aggression as the supreme international crime, differing from other war crimes only in as much as it contains the accumulated evil of the whole. Okay? Now, what would that accumulated evil be? What would be an example? Anyone? Torture. All right. What else?
Civilian slaughter.
Civilian slaughter. Kidnapping. Yeah, somebody's illegal weapons. Yeah, putting people in black holes and not telling their wives or their children or the Red Cross. Yeah. Accumulated evil of the whole, people. We'll be talking a little bit about that. But I want to continue with Haffner here and just read another paragraph or two, if I may. He described the sequence of events in Germany as wholly within the normal range of psychology, and it helps to explain the almost inexplicable. The only thing that is missing is what in animals is called breeding. This is a solid inner kernel that cannot be shaken by external pressures and forces, something noble and steely, a reserve of pride, principle, and dignity to be drawn on in the hour of trial. And he says, Haffner does, it is missing in Germans. As a nation, they have no backbone. This was shown in March 1933 at the moment of truth, when other nations rise spontaneously to the occasion, and the Germans collectively and limply collapsed and yielded to a nervous breakdown. Germany became a nightmare for the rest of the world. And finally, today we Germans are yoked to a daily timetable, cogs in a mechanism we don't control, running steadily on rails and helpless if we become derailed. Only the daily routine provides security and continuity. Every European of the 20th century feels this in his bones. It is the cause of his reluctance to do anything that might derail his life. In this way, unsure of myself, temporizing, I performed my routine daily duties. But at home, I gave way to fruitless and ridiculous outbursts at the dinner table. Sound familiar? Excluded from events and passive like millions of others, I let events come at me. And they did. Now I'm thinking of the last 8 years, folks. And I'm thinking of what Hafner says here about the Germans. The question remains why no individuals ever spontaneously oppose some particular injustice or iniquity that they experienced. Well, in this country over the last 8 years, you can say some, but not all. Not veterans of peace. When Cindy Sheehan rose to the occasion to fight that iniquity, to brace the president with the question, Mr. President, you say my son's death was worth it? You say that my son's death was for a noble cause? Well, I'm going to go visit you at Crawford and ask you what that noble cause was because I don't believe it. And what did Veterans of Peace do? Yeah. That's why I'm so very proud to be part of this movement and honored to be able to speak to you today. On January 20th of this year, we got rid of the Nazis. The only question now is whether we have the courage to hold them accountable. And that's the big question in Washington. And I'm of the belief that we certainly need to hold them accountable. I